Well, this is the old guy, and it's the dead middle of summer, the dog days, and right smack dab in the middle, August 2nd. And it's quite humid out and warm, a lot of thunderstorms, massive rain showers. It was coming down in sheets the other day. People were pulling over. You couldn't see more than 100 feet. It was coming down in sheets for 10, 15 minutes. Then it would stop, and rivers would be flowing for on the roads for a little while. Um, but it has not been a quiet week in Still River. Dead middle of the summer, Midsummer Night's Dreams. Um, if you go out late at night, after 12 o'clock, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and you just look around the streets, you'll see a lot of people sleepwalking out in their night wear, walking along the streets like zombies and staring at signs or trees or whatever. And that's what happens, especially in Still River, due to the poisonous environment of the hatting industry many years ago. You get bit by a mosquito here, certain ones, and you'll have people who are normally very stable, very routine people end up for days in states of reckless abandon almost. Um, Wandering, sleepwalking, getting lost, taking uh, impulsive trips, buying and selling impulsive things. And well, also, it's a big outdoor baptism time in Still River. The holiness of uh, our Lord of the Awesome News Gospel Church goes to this big waterfalls with a big pool down about 15 miles north of Still River. And they go to do their baptisms. And when you go to outdoors to do baptisms, and they go up to their waist in the water in the pool, you have to have the stick man go out first. I learned that from an old blues man, Mancy Lipscomb. Uh, he's on YouTube. I think the Rolling Stones did one or two of his songs, and he was the stick man for his church. The stick man goes out first and feels around and makes sure that the area you're going to stand in and the minister is stable, and then he gives the okay, and the minister goes out there. But they don't wear just white in that church. The women wear these beautiful gowns. There's this sparkle lady. She's just like lavender, flouncy. She looks like a big flower, but then everything's covered with those little sparkles. They meet at a church and she leaves sparkles all over the place. And they go out with these big hats with big flowers on them, and all these different pastel uh, gowns and dresses and everything. It's fair. When they get in the water, the gowns come up and they look like 4 or 5 giant pastel colored water lilies floating in the water. So they do that. And our Church of the Chardonnay is having their midsummer night champagne mimosa outdoor gala, and they'll be doing that this week. And well, many years ago, a fellow lived north of Still River. He was an old hippie, and he had a big boa constrictor for a pet, Edmund. Edmund was about 12 feet long, huge, and in the south side of Still River, another woman had a large female boa constrictor, Eloise. And when midsummer hits, that's the time when the mating call comes. And boa constrictors can sense each other up to like 50 miles away during mating season. And they used to begin their trek. Edmund and Louise would start moving. They would always meet somewhere around a little town about 10 miles north of Still River. And in that town, for a number of years, there was only one fire truck, volunteer fire department. And they would get a call that the boa constrictors are missing. And they would go down the road, and somehow they would end up pretty much near the same area or spot. And they would come out. It took 8 men and this like sling stretcher, because Edmund and Eloise were like in one big ball, and it was like 350 pounds. But the last one they did, some lady had a pot-bellied pig, and Edmund found it and crushed it and swallowed it. So he was unusually heavy because he had this big bump in the middle of him, because it takes like a month for a boa constrictor to digest an animal that it crushed and swallowed. So they would put him in the stretcher in this big ball, carry it up and put him on the back of the truck, and they would take him back home. They would have to try to separate him. After about 5 or 6 hours, they would just separate, and they would roll him up like hose and bring him to their respective owners. So that's the story of Edmund and Eloise, the boa constrictors. It has not been a quiet week in Still River.